Hello friends, operator Starsky reporting from Kiev, Ukraine. It's day 606 of the Russian invasion, and 2 days ago the UN recognized the Russian war crimes against the Ukrainian civilians, including children. The OHCHR presented a new report on the Russian atrocities in Kherson and Zaporizhia Oblast, such as rapes, murders, and systematic tortures used to terrorize Ukrainian civilians on the Russia-occupied territories. Also, the UN report recognized the forceful deportation of the Ukrainian children in 2022 as an illegal act and war crime committed by the Russian invaders. On the front lines, the Russian invaders keep suffering impressive losses. Approximately 980 Russian terrorists died yesterday. Videos from Avdiivka showing hundreds of burning Russian vehicles keep spreading all over the internet. The Ukrainian defenders in Klishivka, South Bakhmut keep moving forward. It is reported by the guys on the ground. The Wall Street Journal reports that, according to their study, Russian invaders in Zaporizhia lost 5 times more artillery than the armed forces of Ukraine. Tonight, the Russian terrorists hit Nova Post terminal in Korotych, Kharkiv Oblast. 6 workers died, 16 were injured as a result. The Nova Post is the most successful Ukrainian logistics service, delivering mail not only around Ukraine, but also in the European countries like Poland, Germany, and so on. The Russians traditionally justified the strike after murdering the Ukrainian civilians. They often say that they either targeted Ukrainian ammo storages or drones or NATO generals, but usually on the footage from the ground you cannot see any military equipment or remains of military vehicles, because Russian media always lie. Some information can be useful though. For example, the Russian invaders were seen showing off ammo and shells delivered from the North Korea. They always say, that Ukraine would lose the war without the international support. At the same time, the poor Russian terrorists are begging Iran and North Korea to supply them with ammo, because terrorist federation is incapable of providing its army with necessary resources to win the war it had started. According to Pentagon, the Russian terrorists spent $12 million buying drones and other military equipment from China, one of their biggest allies in terms of military supplies. Also, the Russian hybrid warfare keeps running internationally. According to the United States National Security Agency, the Russian bot farms and spies between 2020 and 2022 were massively used to devaluate the foundations of democracy in the eyes of the international community. Specifically, we're talking about democratic elections in at least 9 countries, including the US. The Russian propaganda was used to undermine the people's trust in democracy around the world. At the same time, dictator Putin, who keeps running Russia for almost 2 decades, is often presented as a wise and strong ruler of a successful super country. In the past 1.5 years, Russian bot farms were widely used to dehumanize the Ukrainian refugees, according to the Institute for Studying Mass Information. The main goal of the Russian narratives is to decrease the international support for Ukraine, because stopping this support is the only thing that can possibly save the fascist Russia from the upcoming demise. This is the main reason for the growing far-right narratives in the Western countries. For example, listen to this Russian in Germany.
Честно вам скажу, я не люблю евреев, я не люблю украинцев. Я скажу вам честно, я их не люблю. Люди, будьте людьми. И каждый, я так думаю, каждый должен жить в своем доме. Негр в Африке, европеец в Европе, американец я не знаю где. Их нету.
You're probably asking yourself, how does the Russian obsession with fighting Nazi coexist with fighting the representatives of other races? And this individual is not wearing swastikas or throwing zigas. No, he's just an ordinary Russian supremacist living in a rich democratic country, of course. Remember, in my previous video, we showcased the Russian convict invited to a school to share his experience with the Russian children. So if you still can't believe that the Russian Federation turned into a totalitarian gangland, here's another convict teaching the Russian children in Nizhny Novgorod how to hate other nations and kill civilians. Alexander Raspravin, terrorist of the Wagner Group, was convicted 2 times for murder In one case, he murdered his own grandpa by beating him to death. The Russian propagandists, of course, doing their best to make this criminal a modern hero of Russia, the same way they glorified Igor Strelkov or Yevgeny Prigozhin, for example. And the Russian member of parliament, Andrei Gurylev, on the Russian national TV, offered to physically eliminate the Russian opposition.
Я хотел бы, чтобы в этом нашем обществе, которое сегодня доверяет на 80% президенту, а это именно тот показатель сплочения, который есть на сегодня, чтобы вся вот эта вот гниль, которая осталась, она должна быть, ну, если не изолирована, то хотя бы как-то уничтожена.
20% of the Russians who don't support Putin, according to the member of the Russian parliament, must be eliminated, which is approximately 29 million Russian people. But before you start being worried about the Russian opposition, you wanna check out this Russian opposition channel.
Анекдоты вообще не люблю. У меня, наверное, любимый, что общего между вагоном с бетоном и вагоном с маленькими еврейскими младенцами мертвыми. Первый нельзя разгружать вилами.
Please let me know in the comments if you liked this amazing Russian joke. And the cringiest fact is that the active Russian oppositionists are hiding from Putin on the territory of the free democratic world, possibly your country. The Russian supremacy is a plague. And there's only two ways of recognizing decent Russian people. Either they openly and actively support Ukraine, or fight against the Russian invaders shoulder to shoulder with the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine. I know a lot of decent Russians in both categories. Unfortunately, the so-called liberal democratic Russian opposition is not the case. With that, I wish you a great day, and I also want you, after watching this video, to spend just a moment thinking on what can you do to save democracy in your own country. What can you do to protect your values from the totalitarian regimes using your social media and informational resources as a combat weapon? What specifically the democratic world should do in order to stay united and strong? This question is as important as supporting Ukraine. My name is Operator Starsky, reporting from Kyiv, Ukraine. As always, be safe.